Hello, I'm Ian Murray. I'm the chairman of Matador Mining. Joining me on this call is Warren Potma, our exploration manager. Matador Mining is a gold exploration company listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, as well as the OTC market in North America and the Frankfurt Exchange. Our project is the Cape Ray Gold Project in Newfoundland, which is at the moment a very exciting exploration destination with over 75 TSX companies operating there. And we are the only ASX company with tenement and activity on the ground.
Ian, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Ian, Warren, really nice to have you in this interview. Before we get into the bones of it, I've read a few presentations, but I haven't quite got to the bottom of the history of how Matador Mining ended up in Newfoundland. Could you just give us kind of the little bit of background of the kind of the motivation to picking up that ground and that switch from, well, the fact that an Australian company is in Newfoundland?
So that predates Warren and I. It was roughly 2018. These guys from Western Australia were looking for good gold exploration opportunities in a tier 1 jurisdiction. They had been burnt in Africa. They didn't like Southeast Asia. They thought Australian assets were expensive, and they were across in Canada looking at projects over there. And somebody mentioned that there was this gold exploration project in Newfoundland. The typical question is, well, where's Newfoundland? And they got pointed in the right direction, went across, had a look at the project, and exploration hadn't been done there for a couple of years. It was a big tenement holding then, about 80 strike kilometers. We now own over 120 strike kilometers. So it was a nice big land package. To the north, Marathon Gold is there with their 4.8 million ounces. So it was attractive, but it was prior to the current exploration boom that's happening in Newfoundland. So the deal was done. The company picked up the assets and then explored in 2019. Warren and I joined in 2020, and we explored 2020 and 2021. So now this is probably the third year of doing systematic, proper exploration on that belt.
Warren, what's the difference between exploring in Australia and in Canada? Because in Canada, I can see that you've got this thin layer of glacial till. Have you seen a kind of a difference in mentality between the Australians' approach to exploration and the Canadian geologists that you're working with?
Yeah, there's a fundamental difference. So Canadians have been exploring in till-covered terrains for many, many decades, and quite effectively, but they have a very specific approach to that, particularly the juniors. It's expensive to mobilise drill rigs into some of these areas where we are. It's easy enough to get into access-wise, but then to move rigs around and to get further into the project is quite costly, time and dollars. And so what you find the Canadians will do is a lot of surface sampling at the top of the till, and then effectively try and define the best drilling anomalies off the back of that. Now, what's happened on the project at Cape Ray is nobody before us has drilled any of the targets that were undercover. They've simply drilled the outcropping mineralization at surface. Our approach is to bring, I guess, more of an Antipodean and an Australian approach to exploration, which is to physically sample through the cover and sample the basement. This is something that's not typically done in Canada. And for us, it's been hugely successful. So we've had our drilling contractor build very lightweight track-mounted auger rigs that enable us to get through anywhere from 0.5 metre to about 8 to 10 metres deep of glacial till. It's not very deep. And then sample the till on the way down. And then at the bottom of hole, we can drill sort of 40 centimetres or so of diamond core with that exact same rig. So we don't have to drive in a big, heavy rig. We get that 40 centimetres of diamond core. We can physically see the rocks at the bottom of hole. We can do all of the multi-element geochemistry, the smart spectral mineralogy. We can assay for gold. We can assay for the pathfinder elements. And we can define, if you like, the bottom of hole geology map much, much more quickly and more cheaply than the Canadians with their method would have done the same thing. So that's, I guess, the point of difference for us.
I worked in Sweden, and we did a standard process was bottom of till sampling. So you would drill the auger holes and you take the bottom of till, you go down to fresh rock, whether that's basement or just kind of sub till. So that seems to be relatively standard practice. And in Australia, do you use air core rigs typically to get through the weathered material?
So in Australia, you would use RAB or air core rigs, yeah. So fairly lightweight, small air to get down to the bottom of the weathered material. But in Australia, you're basically drilling clays. So RAB and air core goes through clay quite well, doesn't go through boulder till particularly well.
Yeah,
This is where these power augers are much better, because you're effectively drilling poor man's diamond core.
And I can see in the background picture behind Ian that it looks relatively open ground. Are you able to, when you do your bottom of the till sampling, are you effectively using, are you doing kind of a series of lines, holes along section lines across structure?
Yeah, exactly. So we combine typically 200 by 50 or 200 by 100 metre spaced sampling on these lines, but targeted based off a really detailed aeromagnetic survey. So by anyone's standards, the aeromag that we've flown over 40 kilometres of strike length of the project, so where the main resources sit, and to the northeast of that on areas that we know that we can get to relatively easily. We're flying that at 25 metre flight height and 30 metre spaced flight lines. This is a spectacular magnetic data set, and we're lucky, we're blessed in that the magnetic contrast is good. So we knew the magnetic contrast was good from ground mag that we did, and we decided to cover the area with really low level helimag. The topography is such that it allows you to do it. There's next to no trees, as you can see behind Ian. And so we can fly helimag quickly, relatively cheaply, and we've got a fantastic structural map from the magnetics that we're now, if you like, constraining with the bottom of hole lithogeochemistry and auger sampling work.
Great, no, I love it. Building up the layers of confidence on your mineralization, or the controls of mineralization and the general geology, and then testing it from there. For my benefit, could we just kind of first of all start on the resources that you've already got? Do you have a map that you could share showing where those resources are in Newfoundland? And perhaps could you talk to me a little bit about the geology of it? Remind me how many you've got. 800. Remind me of your total resource base as of today.
It's 837,000 ounces.
There we go.
If you look at that image, there, the 4 circles. Those are where the current resources are. So the largest one is Central Zone, which is just over 500,000 ounces of gold at 2.2 grams. And that's in a series of open pits. That's in indicated category as well. Then across the river, we've got Window Glass Hill, which is 250,000 ounces at 1.6 gram per ton. And that's actually quite exciting. And Warren will talk about that later, just the growth potential that we're seeing at the Window Glass Hill area. Then there's the gap of 3 kilometers before we get to Big Pond, which is a small resource, but very good grade. And as Warren said, because of that, the transported cover, nobody's explored between Window Glass Hill to Big Pond. We did the first testing of that area on the back of the targets identified by the aeromag this year. And if you go from Central Zone north up to Isle of Mort, which again is a modest resource, but at good grade, there's a 7-kilometer gap there that's had one historic diamond drill hole. If you go outside this area, further to the north, I think, off the top of my head, I think there are less than 10 diamond drill holes north of Isle of Mort. So the drilling falls away completely. So the historic work that's been done on this belt has been where the mineralization outcrops. There's been no systematic exploration under transported cover until Warren got involved in the company. And you can look at that, the gap from where our resources are up to Valentine Lake, Marathon project, 4.8 million ounces. You've got about 120 strike kilometers with no exploration on the same structure that hosts 840,000 ounces in the southwest and 4.8 million ounces to the northeast.
Excellent. So that's a great slide. Really, really clear. I love it. So you've got 120 kilometers of strike length of your own tenements, and then there's a further 50 kilometers, which is so you're about 170, or it was probably less because of the gap to the right. Got it. Good. Quick question on that slide. You said it was kind of the Central Zone was in a series of open pits. The figures there, the resource figures there, are those unconstrained resources, or are those in-pit resources?
Those are unconstrained. We haven't put pit shells around to constrain them from a resource perspective. We have done a scoping study, which obviously looks at the economics and constrains those resources into what's economic through the scoping study. So of the 840,000, about 500,000 ounces converts to mineable in the scoping study.
Okay. Good. And what's the geology of these resources?
I'll give you the non-geological answer, then Warren will step in. It varies. Over to you, Warren.
That's what happens when you ask the chairman a geology question. So, Melon, the geology of the Cape Ray shear zone. Let's start with the shear zone itself first. The shear zone is a major suture between crustal blocks. It's along similar lines to what you might see, in Yilgarn at Kalgoorlie, for instance. We're talking about a shear zone that's many hundreds of kilometres long. It separates distinct crustal blocks. To the northern side of the shear zone, we have a granite intrusive complex. Within the shear zone itself, we have the Windsor Point Group sediments and intrusions within the Windsor Point Group sediments, and they host all of the known mineralisation at this point in time. And then we have a higher grade metamorphic block to the south, which is equally deformed, potentially to be mineralised. Both the northern and southern side of the Cape Ray shear zone and the Windsor Point Group sediments could be mineralised, but they've just never been explored. So right. With a major terrain boundary and orogenic style gold mineralisation.
Orogenic style gold, and which I'm never quite sure what orogenic means, but we can get into that in a bit. But when you talk about the sediment package in the shear zone itself, so you're talking about a kind of a structural corridor here between, well, obviously presumably the metamorphic terrain to the south and southeast is older, or is that not necessarily the case? And are those?
It is. So it's slightly older. It's certainly much higher metamorphic grade. It's much more crystalline. If you think of that as a really competent, strong, hard block of rock. But at the time of defamation, that was ductily deforming. Okay. The reason we believe why the mineralisation in the Cape Ray shear zone is focused where it is because the Windsor Point Group rocks are lower metamorphic grade, generally softer. And therefore, they've focused the strain between two larger blocks. Now, whether there are a compressed terrain between those blocks, we can argue with the academics. Yeah. Fact remains is that you've got distinct competency contrasts between the footwall intrusive complex, the Windsor Point Group sediments, and intrusions within those sediments that are just pre-sin and post-mineralisation, and then the hanging wall rocks to the south. So really, we're talking about a structurally controlled mineral system that is driven by competency contrast in terms of where the mineralising fluids are focused and where the ore bodies sit and the geometry of the ore bodies.
And do you see the mineralisation occurring on predictable fault orientations or strain orientations or kind of deformation planes? I mean, is it on second order structures? Have you got a kind of how locked in are you into the kind of the structural order of things and the deformation patterns, or is it on the kind of the plunging intersection between planes? I mean, how far down that road have you gone?
Yeah, look, that's a good question. I don't know if you're a structural geologist in a past life, but that's my main bent. And so I can answer that in two ways. In terms of the window glass hill granite hosted mineralisation, we've got a really good handle on the structural controls on that. And we've really been focusing on that for the last couple of years in terms of our exploration and resource growth drilling. So the window glass hill granite mineralisation is hosted within a deformed granite. It's a brittle host, and the gold is sitting within stacked ladder veins and stockwork veins within this granite. This granite is elongate southwest northeast, so it's a lot longer than it is wide. And it's actually that geometry of the granite and structures that are running around the granite and cutting across it that control the vein-hosted mineralization. So we've got a good handle on Window Glass Hill. I've only drilled so far since I've joined the company, I've only drilled one of the other targets outside of the Window Glass Hill granite, and that's the Isle of Mort deposit. And that sits in one of these sediment-hosted shear zones, but it's immediately adjacent to a granite in the footwall as well. So once again, we've got this competency contrast that I think is driving the dilation on the host structures. And at the same time, it's driving the mineralization, not just in the granite, but in the weaker sediments, usually in the hanging wall side, but no reason why it couldn't be in the footwall side. All of the central zone resources are, again, shear-hosted plunging chutes that sit within these structures in the weaker sediments. And so we think we've got two different, well, we can see in the data two different plunge orientations within the southeast dipping shear zones. These things have got potential for significant depth extent, but they've never really been tested more than 100 to 200 metres below surface.
Okay, so goodness, you have got a variety of different mineral settings or mineralization settings. So just if I could summarize that kind of in a translating it for a layman, in the Windsor, in the Window Glass Hill granite, in the Window Glass Hill granite, you've essentially got a relatively competent block which has got cross-cutting and sheeted veins in it. So that's potentially a bulk tonnage target.
Correct.
So the granite's effectively you can look at as almost as a kind of as a bulk unit. In the central zone, it's kind of more structurally plunging chutes of high grade that you might be able to test at depth and you might be able to find depth extensions and also repeated structures along strike. And at Île aux Morts, Isle of the Dead, you've got what's the simplest way of describing that? Kind of a mixture of the two. A mixture of the two. Yes, right. Is that just outside the granites? And okay, one of the things Newfoundland gold is that it can be very structurally complex, and that adding resources or building up resource can prove challenging. So presumably you've got different drill hole spacing in the Window Glass group to the drill hole spacing that you've got in the central zone.
Yeah. Look, we drill the two completely differently. So central zone, it's all about a shear-hosted plane and a plunging chute within that shear-hosted plane. Okay?
Yeah.
And so for that, you drill quite tightly, chasing the down plunge extent. And quite often you get rollovers in the structures and you get dilation and blowouts in the grades. Beautiful. Really, really, textbook stuff in a transpressional terrain. The reason why at the moment we like the Window Glass Hill granite so much is that this thing is, we've been saying forever it's 3 kilometres long. We now realise it extends further than that towards the northeast. There's a slither of the Window Glass Hill granite that runs northeast of all of the central zone resources. Okay, we've got 232,000 ounces there, and we've been drilling to the southwest predominantly and a little to the northwest of that this year. We made a new discovery the year before last to the southwest that was a similar style of mineralization, stockwork veins, broad, lower grade mineralization. But then in the last 3 to 4 months, we've reported on the Window Glass Hill granite margin target. Now, Ian's going to pull up a map for this one.
Don't have it on this one. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
There we go. Oh, that's it. Right.
Okay. I look at that. Okay, this is great. Thank you. So Ian, can you show us with your mouse? Can you just kind of outline the granite block? There we go. Yeah. So that's the Window Glass Hill granite, and you found this. That's the sliver up to the northeast. It
goes even further north than that. So we haven't mapped that yet, but it goes all the way to the northeastern end of that map, basically.
Okay. And is the resource in that you've outlined in Window Glass Hill, which is 322,000 ounces. Is that open?
Yes. So it's open at depth and laterally. So where Ian's pointer was just then, that hot pink section is if you like the higher grade bulk core. Now we're getting good grades in here, right? We're getting 10 to 40 grams per tonne over a metre, and we're getting 30 metres at 4, 5, 6 grams, right? Or at 4 grams at least. So that's in the main Window Glass Hill resource. Now, that hot pink area just southwest of that, that's the new granite margin target that we've been drilling over the last 3 to 4 months. Was never drilled before. Sits under that thick cover and was assumed to be outside the lateral extent of the Window Glass Hill resource. We took the detailed magnetics that we flew last year and the bottom of hole geochemistry and realised that there was another solid zone of good grade mineralisation there. So the sort of numbers we're getting in that granite margin zone, you can see in the image on the right-hand side, right? So the discovery hole was CRD 212, 45 metres at 1.2, including 8 at 5. We followed up with 214, 19 metres at 4.2, plus 6 at 1, plus 4 at 1.9, all in the one hole. And then this year we've followed up with the likes of CRD 277, 32 metres at 2.6. So this is an insignificant grade, and it's all basically from surface.
Oh, right? Fantastic. I love it. Now, what I can see is on that map on the left-hand side is you've created a layer for the granite. And so what I can't see is the kind of mag signature underneath.
Correct.
Can you identify, Ian, in your role as glamorous assistant, can you take us to the wider mag picture? There we go. The kind of the full mag. Can you, on that image there, are you able to identify these granite blocks? Have you got a kind of you've calibrated the field information, the ground truthing with the signal that you're getting on the mag, so that you're able to map where the granite blocks are along this trend?
Absolutely. So the Window Glass Hill granite particularly has a magnetic high right at the margin. So the sediments right up against the granite are enriched in magnetite. Now, Ian can just sort of highlight there where that Window Glass Hill granite is, and it's a small magnetic high, not the big high to the southwest, but just inside of that. We can test that. Now, Ian, can you take us to the lithogeochem map, please, for
these ones?
That one. Yep, that's perfect. So this is our bottom of hole power auger drilling samples for the whole of the Window Glass Hill granite. Everything there in red or pink is Window Glass Hill granite. The difference between the red and the pink is 2 different chemically distinct phases of the granite, and that lithogeochemical distinction also controls mineralization boundaries to some extent. And then around that, we can use the lithogeochemistry to pick the different types of sedimentary units that are intruded by the granite and that fold around the granite. So this is, if you like, the layer that we use to ground truth where the contacts are. And you can see that mag high just outside the reds and the pinks at the bottom of hole numbers.
Yeah, yeah. And could that mag be linked to... so are you clear? It's magnetite around the halos. It's not any kind of. Did you say it's all sedimentary, or are there volcanics in here as well? I mean, it couldn't be. Is it remnant volcanic?
It's clastic to volcaniclastic, right? So there are siliciclastics in there. There are volcaniclastics in there. Some of the sediments look reasonably immature, sort of mafic volcaniclastic sediments. Yeah. But that magnetic rim is magnetite developed in the Hornfells, we believe. The contact was around the granite.
Okay, good. Thank you. And so when you go to Isle of the Dead, are you looking in the kind of the pressure shadows? You're looking in the kind of the places where you're kind of slightly lower pressure, more opportunity for dilation around the granite.
That's the targeting mechanism at Window Glass Hill itself. At Isle of Moit, it looks like we've got a shear zone that runs parallel to the granite, and that's mineralised. And then there are cross-cutting structures that actually displace the granite there. So the granite predates mineralization at Isle of Mort, the same at Window Glass Hill. And it is, you're right, it's strain partitioning around the granite, but also structures cutting across it that seem to be controlling those shoots.
And that's probably just the way that the granite behaved at that time, slightly fracturing along those kind of second order planes. Good. Okay, so can I ask now about where you're drilling and where you're targeting resource growth? Because you've just started a winter drilling campaign. You've had, you were drilling late into last year. Where can we expect the resource to grow from what you've drilled and what you're about to drill?
Maybe just that large magnetic map might be as good as any.
And sorry, I should know, but remind me when we published your 837,000 ounce resource. When does that date from?
That was May 2019.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So since then, we did 12,000 meters of drilling in May 2020. Sorry.
May 2020.
COVID time flies away. Yeah, so
it does.
Did 12,000 meters in 2020, and we did 20,000 meters of drilling in 2021. Plus now the winter program, and then we'll be back to the summer program from May.
Okay, so you've got over 30,000 meters done.
Yeah.
So 32,000 meters done. And presumably a lot of that was in that Window Glass Hill granite margin. The names are getting longer and longer. The aunt of the sister of the brother of the Window Granite Hill margin. So go on. Where did that extra 32,000 meters go, and where is the next block of drilling going?
Okay. So if we look at the map in front of us, a large proportion of the drilling went into the Window Glass Hill granite as a whole. Okay, so in terms of infilling and upgrading the existing Window Glass Hill resource, which is just a small area within the Window Glass Hill granite, extending and making new discoveries like the granite margin and other discoveries that we've announced over the last year and a half within the Window Glass Hill granite. We also, as I said, drilled at Isle of Mort, looking to grow that, both the confidence in the resource, so that was designed as an infill and an extension drilling program at Isle of Mort. And later last year, we completed our first pass drilling at Big Pond to the southwest. Now, we have a Big Pond resource down there, but there's a very large area, 3 kilometres by 2 kilometres. It's virtually never seen a drill hole. And we did the first pass auger, and we followed up with some first pass diamond drilling to test those targets. And we reported late last year that 2 of those first pass diamond drill holes came back with multi-gram intersections in effectively greenfields, absolutely greenfields terrain under till cover. So that was a fantastic first pass result that we'll be following up on in the coming year. Window Glass Hill granite, as I said, at the moment, we've mapped it out over 3 strike kilometres, but it looks like it's going to extend. Well, it doesn't look like. We now know it extends 5 or 6 strike kilometres in total along the north side of the central zone. Currently, the winter program, the first drilling off the rank there is to test that the first part of the northeast extension of the Window Glass Hill granite near PW at the southwest end that Ian's just highlighting there of central zone. So again, the granite extends along the north side. We love it as a structurally controlled brittle host for mineralization. It's never been before, right? On top of that, to keep the pipeline going, towards the end of last year, target area 3, you can see in the far northeast of that map, we covered that area, to the right, Ian, target area 3. Covered that area with a very large till program. So this is a new block that we picked up off the back of doing the magnetics. We love the structural complexity in there. There's a major bend in the Cape Ray shear zone, and a whole glaze that come off it that we just love as structural targets in the intrusive complex to the north. So we've covered that as broad tills. We're waiting for those results to come back in. If we get the sort of results that we hope, then we'll be back in there with the power auger drilling down to basement and hopefully generating diamond drill targets in the year to come. Target area 2 is around Benton. Now, this is somewhere that I've really liked to look at ever since I joined the company, but one of the challenges there was we've got up to 191 grams per tonne in rock chips in boulder till. And the source of those results has never been drilled, has never been identified. So again, we went in there with the power auger. Part of that till is a little too deep for our power auger, so we're going to have to look at a rig that can get a little bit deeper, down sort of plus 10 metres of till. We've got the magnetics showing us where the prospective structures are, and we've drilled the first of 5 holes into there. We still failed to identify, or if you like, demonstrate the source of the cracking gold anomaly in that area. So that's still wide open, and it's up to, I think that's about 5 or 6 kilometres long along the main structure there. It's only had a sum total of about 7 drill holes into it.
Thank you very much. And just before we leave this map, how many rigs will be used this year? And when presumably, well, I don't know. How many winter rigs have you got, and how many summer rigs will you have?
So we've got a winter rig, one winter diamond rig going double shifting at the moment. This is our first ever winter program, so we didn't want to throw too much at it because we want to make sure we got it right and got it done safely. We've got multiple targets that we're chasing with that rig, and we should get between 3,000 and 4,500 metres of diamond drilling done over what's a relatively short winter program. So winter season's much shorter in Newfoundland than it is in central Canada. And then when it comes to next summer, we've locked in 2 double shifting diamond rigs as a minimum, and we're looking at other options around potential RC rigs. Obviously, the power auger rigs will continue, as well as our surface crews. So as a minimum, 2 double shifting diamond rigs. One of those will be full-time on the window glass hill target. We're so bullish about that. We just want to get on with covering that 2/3 of the granite that's never been drilled, that's dripping with rock chip anomalies and, basically screaming to be drilled. The other rig will chase the greenfields targets, as well as doubling up on window glass hill, as I suspect we're going to need some extra drill power there once we get on with the program.
Warren, thank you. Ian, you've mentioned in a past interview that you're targeting 1.5 million ounces. You're obviously over halfway there with the resource that you put out now 18 months ago, almost 2 years ago. When are you going to try to calculate a new resource? When are you going to say, okay, we've got enough drilling now, let's call a data cutoff and we'll put some we'll close the envelope, so to speak, and we'll work out how much we've got within what we've defined so far? So
that 1.5 million ounce resource target that we set, that's on the back of our strategy is to get enough material there to have a 10-year mine life at around 100,000 ounces. So that's 1 million ounces mineable. Gross that up, we need 1.5 to 2 million ounces in resource to give us that as a mineable inventory. So we think we need 3 key areas. So we've got Central Zone, 500,000 ounces. It's already there, the biggest one, very good. Window Glass Hill, 250,000 ounces, but you've just seen what Warren's shown you. There's a whole lot of good grade and width outside the mineral resource that hasn't been quantified yet. So we'll smash out the drilling over Window Glass Hill granite structure this year, see what the footprint looks like it's growing. I would like to believe that Window Glass Hill could double, maybe more than that. So then we've got 2 500,000 ounce areas. We need a third one, and that's where Warren is balancing the Brownfields exploration with the Greenfields exploration. Let's find another area. Is it around Big Pond? Is it up at Isle of Mort? Or is it in the gap between called Stag Hill? Or is it even further up Malachite Lake, Target 4? Yep. So that's the focus of the exploration. As we mentioned, we've already got 32,000 meters of drilling done since the last mineral resource update. We do the winter drilling, we'll do the summer drilling. And I think the board will have a discussion at the end of this calendar year that do we have enough now to put out to show them that we're confident that we'll get to the 10 years at 100,000 ounces.
Thank you. I really like the the Window Hill glass granite, whatever it is. I keep on getting the name wrong. The WGHT. It just looks such an easy way, relatively, to add tons. And the grades that you mentioned are, they're great. So if you can get 2 grams material over the considerable thicknesses, that can really pull down a deep pit. And if you've got the strike length as well, that's such a quick way to add ounces when you've got that bulk tonnage, which is...
On our board, we've got, obviously, Warren's involved and the hands-on guy leading the team. We've got a very good guy in Newfoundland, Crispin Pike. On the board, we've got Nikki Atchett-Bell and Justin Osborne. And when these 4 get together and start discussing what window glass hill granite could be, the rest of us just sit back and let them talk, because it could be a very large tonnage, low-grade system, or it could be a system that has these pockets of high-grade material around it. So the only way to know is to drill it.
Yeah.
It can be a game changer for the company.
I agree. It could be a game changer for the company. Let's not just get focused on window glass hill granite, but are you the central zone? Are you doing any kind of depth extension work there, or do you feel as if they've kind of pulled down far enough? Have you got it? Is the resource at central zone? Is it kind of done?
Absolutely not. But the opportunity near surface, I think, outweighs the value of chasing depth extensions at the moment to central zone, and that's been our strategy. Right? Is we know that we can chase these plunging shoots at central zone to depth, but our focus at the moment is really cheap, open pittable ounces, and there are so many opportunities, whether it's at Window Glass Hill or along the belt, within 7 or 8 kilometres of central zone, where you could have multiple resources within 150 metres of surface that have never been drill tested. So really, the central zone is not done yet, but our focus is on near surface open pittable resources, and the vast majority of our current resources report to open pittable depths well within 150 metres of surface, mostly within 100 metres of surface.
So Merlin, the question I keep asking the geologists is, it's great to fall in love with Window Glass Hill and let's smash up the drilling there, but how do we know that's the best one on the system? We don't. So we have to balance drilling up Window Glass Hill, plus Warren needs to have the rigs going and chasing up the new areas, because target area 4, Malachite Lake, is a massive area, and all the geologists that look at the structures there get very excited, and that's never been tested. So we're definitely going to have that balance between trying to grow what we need to get the first mine ready to go to the next phase, but you never know if there's a bigger system out there that just hasn't been discovered yet.
Good. Well, that's why you've got a mix on the board, so you don't just get a bunch of geologists all pouring everything into Window Glass Hill. Great. I think. Is there anything else that? Is there anything else that needs to be discussed? Because I've learned so much already just from this half-hour discussion. Ian, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah. So we've got loads of targets within the area. We did the Aerobag last year. That's only 40 kilometers out of our 120 strike kilometers. The rest has never had high quality aeromag flown over it, and we could end up with a lot more targets to the northeast of where we currently are as well. So Warren's not going to be short of targets. It's about identifying and prioritizing so we don't waste shareholder money, and that's what Warren and his team have done pretty efficiently up to now. Great.
Well, I wish you the best of luck for the winter drilling program and for the summer drilling program, and I'll keep my eye on the news releases as they come. And thank you both very much for giving me the time to talk about the project.
Thanks, Mel.
Thanks, Merlin.